Today's guest is the inspiring co-founder of both Husky and Pablo Rusty's, Saxon Wright. After immersing himself in the world of specialty coffee and pioneering a science-driven approach to roasting, he transformed coffee waste into innovative, sustainable products. Driven by a passion for creating meaningful work and sparking environmental change, he's now challenging the single-use norm to pave the way towards a future of reusables for a better world. This is the Mucky Middle. Saxon, thank you very much for joining us today in the Mucky Middle. I guess you're a serial entrepreneur, building businesses for a better world. Before we go into kind of what you're doing today, I'd like to sort of start. I always like to ask this question to everyone. What was it that young Saxon wanted to be when he grew up? Like, what were those early things that you sort of wanted to do?
Sure. Well, firstly, hey Nick, good to be here. Great. Thanks for having me on. Oh, look, it's always interesting to reflect back. It's really helpful, actually. I like the question because it's sometimes you forget the origin story and even just thinking about what did that earlier version of myself think or dream about back in the day. And it's interesting in the sense that I was quite deliberate in things that I wanted to do and achieve back then. Not to say I've done them, but I was intentional, I guess, early on. And maybe that's shaped the way I've been thinking about things ever since, really. But early on, I really wanted to... I was actually just genuinely interested in business. I felt like business was a great opportunity space to do something good. I felt like there's lots of ways of doing good in the world, but I was kind of drawn to business. And I was drawn to the idea of how we could employ people and give people great jobs. People spend most of their lives working. And how do you create something that's actually just great for the people working there? Because if they're motivated and committed and passionate, then inevitably you'll do something good. So I kind of had that early on. I don't know where that came from.
How early on was that?
Like maybe early 20s.
Yeah. What about as a kid? Like, what were the things that you...
Further back, I was a bit all over the place, to be honest.
Yeah.
I did work experience on a sheep station.
Yeah.
I was interested in engineering, psychology. I kind of drifted around a fair bit.
Were your parents entrepreneurs as well?
My dad was into business.
Yeah.
So I guess there was some connection or influence into business.
Yeah.
My mum was a potter and a creative, which was great.
My mum's an artist, a painter as well.
So great to kind of, I guess, draw inspiration on both sides. But yeah, I was definitely not grounded. I was just pretty much just if I was just happy as if I had a ball in my hand and could play sport, really.
Yeah.
Probably wasn't until my 20s I actually started thinking bigger picture.
Okay, interesting.
Yeah.
And what sort of drew you to building, I guess, a focus of business being a force of good and having that sort of role and responsibility in creating businesses that were actually leaving a positive impact on the planet?
Yeah, I guess during those early years, I was really into the outdoors and was very much aware of what was going on, to a degree environmentally, and that was still early days, but I guess I was drawn to that. Early influences from my sister, who started the Australian Orangutan Foundation, and just hearing about, deforestation and just other things, and just recognizing there are solutions to some of these problems. And I just felt like actually it'd be great to connect some of those broad issues and feeling like business could do that. And I was inspired by certain entrepreneurs, a gentleman by the name of David Basso, who started a microfinance enterprise in Indonesia and grew that out and has since taken, tens, if not hundreds of millions of people out of poverty through business. And just saying, wow, there's ways we can do things differently, and help people and create wealth, as well, and things that we can do with generating income. And, for me, profit is important, right? It's critical for business.
Yeah.
It's just not the goal. It's the outcome. It's the outcome of success. So if we can create something that's great, well, if it's not making money, well, then it's not a business. So that's okay. Call it a not-for-profit or do something else. That's fine.
You can't help anyone if you're not profitable as well.
Yeah, and you're not going to be sustainable in and of yourself, and you're not going to be able to do anything with any excess funds, be that either growing the business or putting them to use somewhere externally. So just felt like there was an opportunity there. And so, it was wide open. I thought about insurance. I thought about banking and could we change that? I thought about starting a chain of gyms. I thought, so there's a list of ideas. I'm not going to say great ideas, but the ideas, and then you just find something and kind of hone towards it. So,
and how did you land on coffee?
I'd actually helped a few people in coffee. I'd been around the coffee space, so I guess I had a bit of visibility. I ended up randomly working in corporate finance for a little bit of time, and some coffee opportunities came up, and I kind of looked a bit closer at the business behind coffee, and it just was an interesting space. And I thought, oh, hang on, this is a few things aligning. I loved coffee. It was interesting, and there's clearly a growing industry, and you employ a lot of people. So it kind of connected back with some earlier ambitions around creating great jobs for people. And so, Pablo Rusty's was born. Actually, it wasn't my first coffee business. I actually had an independent roasting business. Did contract roasting, and then out of that, Pablo Rusty's came.
It sort of became a natural evolution of kind of where it was going, and sort of made sense.
Yeah. That's right.
And I guess tell us about that journey. Like, has it been, you weren't from the coffee space, you were in finance at that point, and then you started a roastery. So you were kind of learning on the go a little bit?
Yeah, the industry itself was pretty much in its infancy in the specialty coffee space, in this kind of new premium end of coffee. And so everyone was kind of trying to work it all out. I mean, we started sourcing our own beans just because we couldn't really find the coffees imported. Well, there was no demand for high quality coffees at the time. So you had to go and source them yourself. So we started sourcing our own coffees, and, I've always had a bit of a science bend. So a lot of the roasting was really focused on the science and going, actually, how do we get really quality, repeatable product and really take that to the next level? And, back then coffee, and to a degree still is, the artisan or the craft side of coffee, handmade. It's like, and I kind of was like, that's great, but it's just not reproducible. It's not consistent. It's never going to hit the quality that we want to get to. Yeah, we just invested a lot of time and effort to create something. It was pretty unique at the time, and I think still sets us apart today. I think our product is unique in that we've really focused on that science side, and the whole industry globally at the specialty level is now heading that way. There's definitely a lot more science involved. Yeah, interesting. Which is a good thing. But I feel like we had an advantage starting that journey early.
Yeah, I like this thread of the science, but both sides of your brain sort of working. Like the creativity and the science and the analytical and business. I think business is quite a creative endeavor, even if you're not traditionally a creative, like in an advertising agency or something like that. But I think the making of business is very creative endeavors, and I think a lot of business people have both those sides of their brain, and I often find that kind of to be true for a lot of people. Do you find that?
Look, for us and for my journey, the creative side is actually what keeps me inspired. I love it. We try and spend a lot of time in the creative side of things to come up with new ideas. Whether it's creative way of designing a roast profile all the way through to, how we're going to position the brand, to just ideas that we can engage our customer. I mean, there's creativity at every level and step, right? So we really put a lot of efforts on that, and we have this thing which is called creative conversations, where we get together and actually have these open-ended discussions and see what we can take from that and implement and push through. So I think that and design. And design is actually one of our pillars. So we have 3 core pillars at Pablo Rusty's that we lean into, and sustainability is one of them. Obviously, that's fundamental to us. And then design is one of our core pillars. So we actually really focus on that and make sure we don't lose that edge. And digital is our other one. So we actually really want to become a digital company. So we really just lean into the digital aspect of how businesses can run, for efficiency, for scalability, all the things that just make a company work well and really smooth. So.
And is that coming to life in terms of like your e-commerce and that side of things as well?
Yeah, it's from the front end at e-commerce, but just all of our systems internally, the different types of technology, the AI we exploring. Like we have little AI workshops every 3 months where anyone working in AI in their area of the business, we come together and share that information and go, okay, what have you found? Like what tools are out there? How do we best use them? So all the teams have this freedom to explore new tools.
Yeah, awesome.
AI is kind of a fun new area of opportunity, so we're kind of dabbling in the different ways it can potentially be implemented in the business.
That feels unusual. I mean, I don't know that many other coffee companies, so but that does feel, when I think of a coffee company, I think of roasting and sourcing beans and it being quite manual, and you're talking about quite a scientific technology. Is that unusual? Are you quite different in
I would say so, yeah.
Yeah.
So. I mean, I can't speak to everyone else's business.
No, of course not.
But yeah, I think so. Yeah, I mean, I think we really do push some of those boundaries, and I think we've I think we have positively influenced the industry in terms of, design led, and we know that a lot of companies that are rebranded, they all have
Similar.
P&R on the shelf somewhere as a reference point to say, well, it's just, those guys did a good job. Or, I get told all the time that people, love and appreciate our brand. So
that's always good.
Which I enjoy hearing, because we have invested a lot of time and thought into it.
Yeah, it is a beautiful brand. How important has the brand side of things always been very important to you in terms of the building? Like, have you always sort of, or has that been a more recent kind of as the brand has grown in maturity?
Yeah, it's a good. I mean, look, I think from early days I cared. I don't think I had the tools or the knowledge of how to progress that.
Yeah.
I think that muscle has evolved over time, and I think our design muscle and my enjoyment of that has grown. So, and therefore the investment, right? And so we've then pushed time and resource and effort into making it better, and surrounding ourselves with great people that can bring skills and ideas to the table.
Yeah.
So it's evolved, but I think it's a fascinating space, and I felt like it was missing in the market, and so I saw it as an opportunity, but I also just saw it as an internal drive that we had to just do the best and represent ourselves in a really clear, elegant way.
And it's obviously become very competitive. Like, there's a lot of specialty roasters now. How has it changed over the years?
Oh, look, every week I feel like I see a new brand pop up. I'm like, I've never seen these guys before.
Yeah. How have they got shelf space?
So I'm constantly surprised at how many there are.
Yeah.
It's a tough market. I mean, for people that don't understand the coffee industry at the moment, the last 6 months, global coffee prices have doubled. It's become it's hyper competitive at the cafe space. Margins have been squeezed, all the way through the entire supply chain. So it's a tough business, right? So you look, all credit to people, having a go and starting a new business, but we're really established and we've got scale. And so, for us, that's why we have to lean into the digital side. We have to really build efficiencies and systems and look at every element of the business just to make sure we're on track and we're not missing anything, and we're adaptable to a changing environment, and that's a huge piece of the puzzle, right? Like you have to not just be solid, but you have to be able to be mobile, like as a business. Like what's your business mobility look like? Can you flex with the different pressures that come, which could come from any direction, anytime, anywhere, right? So we try and build the right amount of redundancy. We have the right amount of flex in our systems to cope with that. And the team's done an incredible job to get to that point.
And has that been a muscle that you've built over a long period of time? Like, how have you done that? Like, because you weren't from a traditional business background either, were you?
No, I mean, I've never worked in corporate.
Yeah, exactly.
Put it that way.
It's not like you trained, didn't do a university course on how to be an entrepreneur and run a successful business.
No, I did. I did chemistry and sports science.
Yeah. So.
Okay. But chemistry is very methodical. Like science is very, try something, try only one thing at a time and repeat. Like, the ability to replicate something over and over. Like there's good
Scientific
principles
method.
in science that I think I've actually really embraced. And the sports side's interesting too. I feel like I've lent into that a little bit too. There's that, in terms of coaching, training, equipping people, competition,
mindset,
but being disciplined and focused. There's elements there that are, really
I always find that interesting of like how, the things that you do sometimes in your youth or when you're younger, it doesn't actually make sense until you're looking back at it and it's like, oh yeah, those things have influenced the way that I am now operate on a day-to-day level.
Yeah. But what's interesting is I've got 3 girls, right? And I talk to them at high school and I'm like, you would be absolutely surprised how much you need of U9 science. Like, I use it all the time. It's like, what are we going to use to do this for? And I was like, oh my gosh, I use it all the time. Like U9 maths, U9 English. I'm like, just the basics, just a actually critical thing.
Me, not so much, but
So it's great. The businesses evolve and you bring those tools and you use the latest things that's out there as well. So you've got this background, which is really helpful, and the grounding. But then there's so much change happening in technology and the market and the macro environment. I mean, even just having all casual employees that are on visas, you suddenly get revoked, right? Like that's a huge problem for the cafe sector, which affects us, but a lot of our clients as well. So suddenly you've got all these existential challenges that just crop up, and you're just like, okay, well, how do we solve for that?
And because you're just taking Pablo's for a second, Pablo and Rusty, it's different business models as well you have within you've got the cafe, because you've got a couple of brick and mortar stores, is that correct?
Yeah, we've had about 10, but we've got
10?
two now. So we've got one in Sydney CBD, one in Melbourne CBD.
Yeah, so you have those, and then you have the larger marketplace distribution, the Woolies, that's a whole other thing as well. Like there's different beasts and different challenges with all of those things.
Yeah,
I'd
it's
imagine.
painful.
Yeah.
If I'm honest, it'd be great if we just had one thing and just It's a challenge, right? Because it's great to have multiple business streams. And that's redundancy, and that's risk management, and that's it capitalizes on different opportunities, but it's also expensive because it's distracting. You're running multiple lines. One of them can either go really well or go backwards, and suddenly you've got to give all your attention to that. So it's good and bad. I think the net for us has been good. I think the net output is mean that we've had to get more creative in the product formats we use. So in coffee, we say format. So a format might be like a pod or a bag of beans or a ground coffee or a liquid, a liquid, right? So we do canned coffees and concentrates, and that's a whole world in itself, right? Which I got really passionate about and was going in on the weekends and working out how to do hot brew coffees and make concentrates, right? And made an awful mess in the factory and try and clean it up before the guys get in on Monday. But that experimental side is really interesting, but it's yielded these great results. It's now opened up all these opportunities to export or to create entire new channels that didn't exist before. So I think on the whole, it's good. And that, again, it's just another advantage for us. We can spread it around, and really one of our broader goals is how do we make great coffee accessible to everyone, and sometimes that's a different format. And even pods, some people say, why do you do pods? It's like, well, I don't love pods. I think the waste is too big. I mean, ours are compostable, but still it's not still not ideal. But if people are buying pods, I prefer them to buy a sustainable pod, and hopefully if they buy our pod, we might be able to nudge them across to a different product. So we kind of just see it as a journey to
different entry level
upgrade consumers into a better way of drinking better coffee over time.
Lots of different entry points.
Yeah
Interesting. And I guess tell us a little bit then how Husky came about.
So Husky is really just the offshoot of a project that we started in Pablo Rusty. So basically we were sourcing coffees, or trying to source coffees, in southern Yunnan, which is deep south of China. It's in a beautiful growing region. It's not China as you probably imagine it. It's this tropical, beautiful, mountainous regional area near the Burmese border and northern Thailand. And we worked with some farms there to try and improve quality and livelihoods. Ultimately, we were trying to work out how we can improve the lives of the local villagers. And I had an old friend that was doing some work down there and doing some great projects with kids and orphans, and so we really wanted to support that. Went over there and realized that coffee could actually be a really powerful way to help solve some of those problems locally. And the original intent wasn't to buy coffee, but having traveled there, I was like, actually the coffee could be really good. It needs a bunch of things fixed. We need to improve processing and how they manage the farms and inputs and get them off some chemicals and really tidy it up. But it had the potential. So we kind of just set ourselves the goal of going, well, hang on, let's focus on this. Let's give ourselves a 10-year horizon, and every year try and get it to a better score and a better environmental output. And what we ended up doing was just seeing some incredible quality come out. And we ended up buying several containers a year of coffee out of there that was actually delicious coffee and great for the environment, and doing some
an amazing story behind it as well.
Work for the local people and just transforming lives on the ground. So it was a really just multifaceted win for us as a business and for me personally. And that was great. But one of the little micro projects on those farms was this waste product, which is husk. Now, husk is the outer shell. So if you imagine the seed, but a coffee bean, it's green before it gets roasted. It starts this little green seed. They're cute little red cherries, but then inside that's your green bean. But surrounding the bean is this shell, and it's a sort of a fibrous. It's basically ligninose, but it's a structure that you have to rip off, and in milling, so you pull it off before you finish the drying process, and it gets bagged and graded. So you take the shell off, and then what do? You just throw it out the back of the factory, and it just sits there. Well, it turns out there's a lot of it. So there's just mountains of this husk just piling up, and we were just like, gosh, it'd be great if we could do something with that. It'd be great if we could turn that into a product, and even greater if we could actually add value to it. And what would that look like? You know, so I'm kind of fast tracking about 3 years of just conversations here, but it sounds a lot more thoughtful and organized than it really was.
Yeah.
It was really just a lot of early banter, and then, you know, it just evolved and kind of steamrolled. And then it was like, well, hang on, what if we could create a cup out of it? What if what if that cup could mean we use less single-use cups, solve that problem at the same time? So kind of sell these
full circular,
these dreamy ambitions, and then kind of somehow we just tracked towards it and ended up doing it. So we kind of set this vision, went for it, did a lot of science and research in terms of how to do that. It's quite technical. And the outcome has been amazing, because we now buy the husk from the farms, which gives them an additional revenue source. It removes the husk from their farms and gets it out of the way. And we do something good with it on the other end as well, which we can then reuse at the end of its life. So we designed it so that when even these cups are end of life, we can break them down and make new things out of them. So our dog bowls are our first project. So we're now making dog bowls out of...
I love those.
Out of old Husky cups that have been broken down, that have been in service for 3 or 4 years.
And the product itself is by nature organic?
So obviously the husks are.
Yeah.
And then we've got a few different versions. So we created a few different materials for different use cases.
Yeah.
And we basically created our own biopolymer structure, which is not quite, but almost 50% husk. So it sits just under that. We've just tested for 50, so we're constantly trying to get the husk percentage up, which is actually quite challenging to use traditional molding processes and tools, because we wanted to make sure we could use standardized tooling. Otherwise, it becomes very hard to manufacture. So that we end up with a product that is stable, lasts for a long time. We get about 2 to 3 years usage in a heavy commercial environment.
Yeah, wow.
And then they do start to break down over time. They're not a ceramic, but then ceramics smash and break. So we're getting longer shelf life than the average ceramic based on breaks. If ceramics get broken, then you have to refresh your...
No, interesting. We work a bit with Ulu. It's a bioplastic out of WA.
Okay.
It's sort of made from the sugars of seaweed.
Oh, wow.
So,
okay.
super interesting. But I love all of these.
Yeah, the seaweed space is fascinating, actually.
Yeah, it's really interesting.
That's a whole other podcast.
A whole other conversation.
Not that I'm the one equipped to talk about it, but it's an interesting space.
And then Husky, recently, you sold that to... Biopack, thank you.
Yes.
Yeah, tell me a little bit about that. I mean, that must be an exciting, evolution for the business and to accelerate growth.
Yeah, look, Husky, we always had big ambitions for Husky, and it always had this opportunity to scale. And we were actually doing a fundraise, and one of the company 5V that actually acquired a significant portion of Biopack were one of the people I'd had conversations with, and they'd reached back out, and I was like, yeah, we're looking to fundraise. And so we had this conversation about going, well, what does that look like, and how much money do we need, and where would that take us? And then they said that, well, they have got a stake in Biopack. And at first it was like, well, is that a conflict, or is that a good thing? Because they're actually in single use, and we're trying to get rid of single use. So how's that going to work? But they're a fully compostable business. They're trying to be as eco and sustainable as they can in that space.
Because they're also a B Corp, aren't they?
Because they're B Corp.
Yeah.
And they're trying to do some great things in the single use. And I think that's a great step forward. However, they are actually still thinking about reuse, and ultimately single use is only a part of the solution, and reuse is an answer, or the answer really for this environment. So really good single use, i.e. compostable, is on the way there, but it's not the end. So I guess we're just coming from very different angles, but the same outcome. Yeah,
trying to solve the problem from lots of different ways.
So we're just doing it in a different way. And so we all got together, and they were like, actually, this is great. We want you guys to do exactly what you're doing and take business from us. But we'd prefer it to be internal than external. So let's do it together. And so it just actually made a lot of sense. I've known Gary, the CEO of Biopack, for well over 10 years. We've used their products in Pablo Rusty's. So there's been a long history of collaboration. So it was really just like, okay, well, let's bring it together. There's an efficiency and scale that those guys can bring. It makes sense that we do it together and not go against each other. And the guys at 5V were great in sort of pulling it all together. And so we were like, well, this just makes sense. Let's do it. We're ambitious for scale, so we want to grow it. And the bigger we get, the more impact we can have.
That's so good. You seem to work off a very long timelines as well. Like you're talking about 10-year projects. And how do you find managing those long timelines and sort of working towards that relentlessly? What are the ways in which that you sort of manage that?
I think we all need to dream, right?
Yeah.
You know, and 10 years for me is a dream. Like 10 years is like so far away, it's intangible. So it's kind of, so to me, you know, that's something that's just out there, right? But if we're not dreaming about mass change or mass benefits or, you know, really transition, like things that do take time. I think we live in this really short-term business cycle. You know, we need results quickly. We need
next quarter.
You know, everything's happening here and now. People are staying in jobs less and less time. Like things are churning, right? And I, you know, I'm not saying that's necessarily good or bad. It is what it is, but that doesn't mean we can't dream bigger picture. And I think we still need to think big. You know, if we want big transitions, we have to think and dream big. And sometimes they just have longer horizons. And so we just have to look forward and go, well, okay, well, I might not be able to get that in the next quarterly, you know, earnings, but we can start to head that way, and we can start to implement things that might get us there. You know, so I like to stretch both myself and the teams to dream big, but dreams need to come back to reality too, right? So I kind of had this idea of going, well, what's a, you know, we talk about a vision for a business. Well, you know, for me, a vision is a sort of a 3 to 5 year horizon, maybe something that you can actually see coming to fruition, you know, while you're working here, or you know, like
a big, hairy, audacious goal.
It's like it's a tangible, achievable something, right? So a vision is much closer, but I feel like it needs to be birthed in a dream. So it's kind of like, okay, well, the vision is then connected, and then you pull that into kind of, you know, more tangible, you know, goals and objectives or whatever, and you start, you know, right, what are we doing next month? You know, and so for Husky, I've got similar dreams, right? Like I want to see mass transition to reusables, you know, to the point where every house has a different color bin for reusables. Like, you know, maybe we don't even need our single-use bins anymore, you know, for recycling, or maybe we can eradicate some of those other things, you know, through composting and better recycling, and then, you know, engaging reusables is a far more dominant place. So, but they're going to take ages, right? I mean, this is not going to happen anytime soon, but we've got to take steps towards that. But that's why Husky's really putting the foot on the pedal to just go, well, how do we increase that adoption? How do we get towards that? So we're still working towards a dream, even if we've got, you know, much shorter term things in front of us right now.
What's kind of the big next step? You know, what are your kind of next big sort of goals and steps to actually make that happen?
Right now we have products that you buy and you own, and you can, you know, you call it BYO, call it reusables, call it whatever you want, but you own the cup or the vessel. They're great products, and everyone in the space, I think, is great and doing good things. However, it doesn't directly impact the way single use. A little bit maybe. I mean, you get some adoption, maybe 5% or maybe 10 if you're lucky, of a cafe or a venue receiving those kind of vessels. So what we need is something that's far more scalable and easy and practical. So that's kind of what we launched. The second side of the business, which we're calling Borrow by Husky, which is basically a reuse program that you don't ever own the asset. You don't own the cup or the container. You borrow it. So it's pretty straightforward. And then we record that and we track it and we return it to either the venue or maybe to smart bins, so that we can really hit scale. And what we want to see ultimately is 100% adoption. We know that's a fair way off, but we're trying to build the systems and the tools and the mechanisms to just facilitate that really quickly.
Amazing.
And, you know, for a business that wants to get rid of single use, it's like, yep, we can do it now. We've got a modular approach to implementing lower cost. They're not made from husk, by the way. They're just a PP cup, so it's just a straight plastic cup. However, still designed really well, still nice to use, and still far better than single use. So,
and what kind of what are you, so for the trial that you're rolling out in January? You know, what are your estimates of kind of the amount of waste that you're going to be taking out of the stream?
It comes down to adoption. So we look at each venue and say, okay, well, if we can get a transition of say 5% or 10 or even 20 is actually pretty ambitious. So for a cafe to move to 20% reuse through our system, that's actually a pretty big goal. We'd like it to be higher, but we're based in reality a little bit. And so, you know, if a busy cafe does 1,000 cups a day, you're talking about 200 cups, single-use cups a day from one venue. Times that by 1,000 venues, times that by 10,000 venues, maybe get that to 30%. That number climbs, you know,
fast.
You know, from the millions to the tens of millions to the hundreds of millions, you know, and ultimately to the billions. I mean, we are throwing out billions of cups into our landfills just in Australia.
Yeah.
Over a given year, I think it's like 30 billion a year or something. It's an absurd number. So, of all different types of vessels, but yeah, the numbers are staggering. So, yeah, we want to hack into that, and it'll take a bit of time, but yeah, that's the goal.
Very cool. What is the thing that drives you? You seem to have like a lot of energy, and you're very passionate about the way you talk about the businesses and those visions. What is the thing that sort of, it's hard being a business owner and being, you're always hit over the head with lots of different things constantly over years and years and years, and you've been doing this for some time. How do you always find that energy?
I think I'm fundamentally a positive person.
Yeah.
So I think
an optimist.
I see the opportunity and the potential in what's around us and the need for change. And so I think I'm fundamentally driven by that. And nothing's changed from my early, back to your earlier question, the desire to see people have great jobs. Like I genuinely love seeing people reach their potential in a workplace environment. I think that's just fascinating to see people just flourish, to do great and to bring together all the best things of who they are and to reward them for that and to push them, but to get amazing outcomes. So that's deeply satisfying. So I still actually really enjoy just seeing a group of people come together and create and build and execute and deliver change in a really great way. So that's motivating. That's probably on a daily level. But then if I stand back on a sort of bigger picture, environmentally, I believe it's catastrophic out there, and everyone's got something to do, and I'm just driven by that. I just feel like we have the capacity. I think everyone's got the capacity, but if we're sitting back waiting for someone else to do it, I just feel like we're in a world of pain. And like I said, I've got 3 daughters, and I want to demonstrate to them that we can do something, but I want to leave them the place better than I found it, which is so far not happening, sadly. And I just think we need to be realistic about the world we live in. So I want to see genuine change happen, and it's deeply motivating, and it's frustrating when you see decisions that put us back. But I think we can cut things off at the source too. We can reduce the amount of trees that are getting bulldozed to make single-use products. We can cut that off at the source. Like, let's stop the demand for it. I can go and climb a tree. All credit to the people that do, they're amazing. But I can't do that.
If you can give a solution that.
But if I can work on the other end of it and actually, try and cut the demand down, well, then maybe that's something that's, maybe more beneficial than
super meaningful.
Doing something. So, I think everyone's got a part to play, and everyone can do what, everyone can, like one of my personal phrases is only do what only you can do. And I feel like if I just stay on track and just do the things that I can do and do them to the best that I can, then I feel like I can keep getting up every day and give it 100%.
And what about across the 2 different businesses? How do you manage that? And I can see the principles of like beautiful design in both businesses as well. Like, how actively involved are you across of both? And you're talking about experimenting, making new liquids, and it sounds like you're quite hands-on in lots of different ways.
Oh, look, I mean, Pablo Rusty's has a CEO in place, and he's great. So he drives it fundamentally at a day-to-day. I've stepped back from that operational side. I'm still involved in the sense that I catch up with him. We talk strategy, we talk design. We think about where the business is going to go, and I spend a bit of time doing that, which is great. And then the rest of the time really is just Husky. I mean, I'm CEO of Husky, so that's my focus, and bringing this borrow program to life and to really get it established and make sure it's really integrated well with BioPack, and we house ourselves, nestle into them, in the right way, and to work with the team really closely. So that's really where I'm focused. But it's great, and there's a great cross collaboration between the two. Like Pablo and Rusty's will become a launch site for the borrow program where we can really experiment, and we've got this sandpit that we can play in, and so they still really closely aligned in terms of how they can actually benefit each other, which is great, and they serve each other well.
Do you think you'll start other businesses? You've had two very successful businesses. Like, is there still a need and an itch for other things, or is it quite organic?
Oh, look, it's organic. I'm trying not to overload too much. I was doing a fair bit of consulting and a few other things on the side, but with where Husky's at now, it really just needs my full attention.
Needs full attention just to get it to
bring
that
this
point.
to life. And I just feel like the level of impact we can have right here, right now is, it's just too good to miss.
Yeah. And the Husky design is very distinct. What was kind of the process to that?
Yeah, it wasn't intentional at first. I mean, really, it was just about design. It was just like, well, what are the elements that make good design? And so if we talk about design for a second, I like to think of it, the three pillars of design that I have, or I lean into for Husky is utility, simplicity, and beauty. So is it useful? Is it simple? And is it beautiful?
Nice.
And so that is just what underpins everything we do. And so we just think about that and go, okay, well, what's not useful and what's not simple? And ironically, with the Husky cup, the design was quite interesting because it was like, well, you know, we're looking at other cups, obviously, and look, we didn't design the cup, right? So that cups have been around for a while. So it's like, how do we put our spin on a cup, right? But one of the things with ceramics, certainly for dine-in, was the handle. The handle is just in the way. It's like it gets broken. People have different sized fingers. So we're trying to design a handle. I'm like, why do we even have a handle? Like maybe what do you have a handle? Well, it's like, well, to help hold and to protect you from heat. It's like, well, if we could solve for that.
Yeah, if it's insulated
differently, well, then we don't need a handle. So maybe there's a better way of doing a handle. And so, you know, the fins and the way you hold it, that's quite straightforward. But really the fins were then an insulating idea. So it was like, how do we keep the heat out so that you can put boiling water in it and it's fine.
Very cool.
So it's just a simple way of solving another problem. So it's not like we tried to create this cup that looked so distinct. It was actually just solving a basic problem so that we could get better stacking, so that we could get more efficiency in freight, so that they could stack on a machine better because handles just interrupt that entire process.
Yeah, of course.
So we wanted to get the cost down from all of those things, minimize packaging from a sustainability point of view. All of those little things that go into a cup. It's funny, you can talk about a cup and the amount of thought that went into that is
I can imagine.
It's quite extreme. It's something so simple from the radius of the rim to the width of for people's hands and having it different widths so that different people with different size hands can comfortably hold it.
Did the same amount of design love go into the dog bowls?
The dog bowls did get a lot of love. Maybe not quite as much. But
I love it. And I guess tell us a little bit about the B Corp journey. Like, was that early on?
B Corp came about because I was sitting on a beach in Fiji, and I was just flicking through podcasts and reading different books. And anyway, I listened to an audio book, which was "Let My People Go Surfing." Who's the founder of Patagonia? And the founders of B Corp, and I just read about they were talking about what B Corp was and a bit about that journey and why it's important. And it just struck a chord, and I'd finished the application for B Corp for Pablo Rusty's while I was that day while I was in Fiji. I was like on holidays. I'm like, man, we have to do this now. This is amazing. I want in. So let's join this. I want to be part of this movement. And if there are other businesses doing this, it's like, how do we create a community of businesses that are like-minded, sharing similar goals, just doing it really differently. Cutting through all different fabric of society, and yet with the common purpose and heart. So I just was like, we got to do that. So yeah, we just dived in and we've renewed Pablo Rusty's again.
Yep, we just finished ours.
Husky's just renewed again.
Okay.
So we've been doing it for a while now. It's great. Love it.
What about, this whole podcast is about finding the balance between purpose and profit. And it sounds like that your businesses have been built with purpose at the core of them. But I presume that there has been challenging moments of sort of making decisions around, I guess, making compromises for the longer term goal. Can you talk to us about any sort of examples of that, like challenges that you face sort of in either of the businesses?
Yeah, it's an ongoing challenge because there are costs and sometimes you can justify that. Putting solar on the roof is pretty straightforward. You can see the ROI, it's a good thing to do. It ticks the box and it's quite straightforward. But there's a lot of softer places in the business where it's harder to navigate that and hard to know, well, where does that cost us? And, if our customers don't see that or if there's no real ROI on that, what does that look like? And I think that's a challenge that we've constantly had, and we try and find the balance and to go, well, how much do we leverage what we do and try and talk about it externally versus just trying to do the stuff internally. But I think, for Pablo and Rusty's, it's trying to work out how do we do carbon offsets and what does that look like? Because you can spend your money very differently on carbon credits or the parallel is with Biopack. I know Biopack themselves are actually cutting back on carbon credits, but that's so that they can spend that money internally on becoming more efficient, but no one will see that. So it's sort of harder to balance those trade-offs sometimes. And so you've got to make those calls where the you know, for Biopack, the latter is better for the long term. You know, to become a more sustainable business is probably more valuable than offsetting, where you don't have the control, or you don't, you know, you send the money away and then it's done, versus actually transforming your business, you know, from the inside. So
and focusing on actually reducing your carbon footprint,
and reducing your footprint and investing in things that no one will ever see. So I guess there's always trade-offs, and there's a balance. But you know, yes, you have to be profitable, but as long as you are not damaging the world, hopefully. Although having said that, I think all businesses to a degree are extractive. I mean, I think at a fundamental level, even just having an office, just doing like you're using resources at some level. So I think all businesses just have to give back and just have to do better.
Try and minimize and give back as much as possible.
Do that internally, but also external as well. I think you have to give back beyond your borders as well. I mean, I think we all have to do something.
Yeah, agree. Yeah, we've got our sort of buy one, give one initiative, which is basically we help companies that are trying to decarbonize the planet with their growth and their branding and all of that sort of thing. So that's kind of like, you know, we do a big project for X company, we take some of those profits out and we put those resources to that sort of thing. And that's, you know, I can't solve lots of these things, but some of these companies are solving them and I can help them drive success. So that's kind of the way.
Which is amazing. That's great.
Yeah, which is kind of it's fun, and it also feels it's great for the team to be working on those sorts of projects as well. Yeah. So going back to, you know, feeling fulfilled, and I mean advertising is a pretty fraught industry for most, but you know we won't work on, you know, fossil fuels, weapons manufacturing, all of the gambling. There's just so many industries out there that most of the multinational agencies are still working with. It's like you're still pushing us in the wrong direction, whereas we have a really powerful force of persuasion. We should be using that for good. Yeah, but absolutely interesting. Yeah, I guess what's been your sort of favorite achievement in your sort of business career to date? What's that sort of? Is there one standout moment, or has it been a myriad of like just really awesome breakthroughs that you've had?
Yeah, I think there's lots of little things that add up, I guess, over time. I mean, the project in China was really satisfying, just to see, you know, a small region become a transformed place, and from being a victim of the market, you know, of the coffee segment, but to become a sought after and desired place. You know, it's really it's empowering, you know, like for those people, and it's great to have been on that journey. I think. Yeah, creating some of the new products we've done along the way. I mean, just launching Husky itself was, you know, is a pretty big milestone to think, you know, that out of nothing we could create not just a product, but a business that could scale and, you know, do something really powerful in the world. And Husky, you know, it's transitioned a lot from its original founding kind of intent of using husk. Like that's not, our goal is not to try and consume as much husk as we can, which is kind of how it started, right? I mean, it was like, how do we vacuum up as much husk to solve their problem?
That's one piece.
And that's one piece. And that's still happening, but it's not really our focus anymore. I mean, the company has evolved massively. And instead, it's like actually the bigger problem space is single use and the way that's managed. And so, hang on. But we're right in the middle. We could solve that, like because we're not just thinking of it from, you know, as a product, but we're actually a design company. We're a solutions company. Like we think differently about the world. So let's not hold ourselves to that original problem or that original kind of goal or mission. Like we can actually evolve from that. So we've definitely been a company that's evolved, and I'm kind of proud of that. I feel like navigating the transition from how do we just create a product out of husk to a company that's world leading in terms of how we can solve for the transition away from single use into reuse. And so that whole transition, I guess, is not one thing, but it's a whole bunch of little steps. But yeah, I feel like it's pretty satisfying to look back and to go, well, in a space of about 5 years, we've transitioned a company into something that's doing something really interesting and innovative in the industry. Yeah,
that's amazing. And I guess, you know, just to wrap up of like, what if you were to talk to your younger self now, you know, what type of advice would you give yourself, you know, that 20-year-old?
Yeah, I'd probably say to him, don't try and do as much as you do. I don't know. I often just I cover a large breadth of things, and sometimes it does get a bit overwhelming. So I'd be like, stay the course a bit longer on a few things. But at the same time, like, being broad and diverse. I think I tried to do too much on my own early days. It's probably a mistake that I made that I've learnt, and I've really come to accept that actually I'm great at being across a lot, but I literally can't do everything, and I need people that are really good at what they do around me. So I think it took me a long time to surround myself with people that were better than me in pretty much everything. And so I think losing that hero mentality a little earlier would have been probably good.
I always much prefer if I'm not the smartest person in the room. I much prefer to have very amazing brains around me. And what about in terms of your work-life balance? Like, it sounds like you've got a fairly full-on load. How do you manage that? What's your philosophy around that?
Look, I still really believe that rest and downtime is really important. I feel like the creativity side of me does much better when I give myself breathing time and time in a different environment and time away. Travel. I love travel, and I actually find it just super empowering. I feel like ideas and thoughts come much thicker and richer. So, but I certainly give a week every year to go out on my own, and I go away somewhere, and I use that as creative thinking and strategic time to just to plan ahead, a little bit of reflection and just to detune. And without that, I don't think I would have come anywhere near as far as I have. So I really, that's probably a key one that I really value, that taking just a couple of days. I usually take 4 or 5 days if I can, and then and just disappear. I might go camping. I might just go off grid somewhere
and just kind of vibes
and just disappear.
Yeah, awesome.
So that's probably a key thing that really refreshes me as well.
I love that. Yeah, I've heard a few people mention that as kind of a key success thing that they do. I have to do it. I've got a 4-year-old and a 2-year-old, so
that makes it tricky.
I'll have to negotiate with my wife. And yeah, I mean, I always think it's interesting of like this work-life balance for business owners and founders, because I personally struggle with it. I feel like I am more of an integrated with the business, but I have to try and still carve out time for myself. So it's not like a traditional work-life balance philosophy. It's more just actually making sure that there is time for the family, time for myself, time just to make sure that I'm I don't know.
Look, for me, work and life are just too integrated. Like I love my work, and my work is my life because it's what I'm passionate about and love doing. So they're integrated. So it's really just about how to frame that time-wise and to give meaningful time to the people that I care about, and to ensure that I'm equipped and resourced as an individual, and I have myself in the best possible way to give to my teams and to everyone else. So it's just about how that functions. But I don't segregate so much. Like they're very intermeshed. It's very intertwined. But that's for me, right? And I think everyone's different. I think the main thing is that you know what makes you tick and how to stay healthy. And I think if you can stay healthy and look after yourself, then that's absolutely critical.
Yeah, agreed. So. Awesome. Well, thank you very much for coming on the podcast. Really appreciate our chat, and it's been awesome.
Amazing. Thanks for having me, Nick.
Thanks for listening to the Mucky Middle. I hope you enjoyed this episode as much as I enjoyed having the conversation. If you did, please hit the subscribe button wherever you get your podcasts, and if you feel so inclined, give us a review. It really helps other people discover the show and gives me a little dopamine hit as well. If you'd like to get in touch, you can find me on LinkedIn or shoot me an email at nick@papermoose.com.
The Mucky Middle is a Paper Moose production. Music by Caleb Jacobs.